good afternoon. As part of the continuing series of the SVS Historical Archives, we have the pleasure of meeting with Dr. Peter Gloviczki today. Welcome, Dr. Gloviczki. While you currently reside in Rochester, Minnesota at the Mayo Clinic, I'd like to begin with your early years growing up in Hungary. And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your family and your brothers and sisters when you were growing up in Hungary.
I was born in northeastern Hungary, in a city that was close to the Russian border, Ukrainian border, and close to an area of famous vineyards called Tokaj. And that's where I went to school. My father was a physician. He was boarded in internal medicine and neurology, and he served as a tremendous role model for me. And we had a family of 5 children. My oldest brother was a physician. We had many physicians in the family. My uncle was a physician, my grandfather was a physician, so I pretty much at a very early age decided that I would like to be a physician, specifically a surgeon.
And how did you decide that? What were the things that led you to, especially if you had a family that was more geared toward medicine, what were the things about surgery that you found interesting?
I was very impressed by the type of practice my father had. I thought that that was tremendous to take care of people, treat them, and then we had a good family friend who was a surgeon, so I thought I would like to be a little bit different than my father, and that's how I decided that I want to be a surgeon. So I was indeed 6 years old when somebody asked me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be a professor of surgery.
Wow, early on. Well, can you describe some of your early years of education and how, so at the age of 6 you decided that you wanted to become a surgeon. So how did you go down that pathway, especially growing up in Hungary? What was it like?
It was a difficult time. It was the time of communism. It was the time of Stalin, the time of the revolution of 1956, I remember very well the Russian tanks when they came. I was 8 years old. The Russian tanks came into our city, and that's how they went to Budapest. Oh. And I remember very well the tragedies of that time. I went to school in Nyíregyháza, in the city where I was born, and then for a high school, I went to a Benedictine abbey. It was interesting that this high school was so good. The teaching was excellent, so even the communists could not shut down this school during the darkest regime. So I graduated from there, and I got good marks, and I could get into the university, the Semmelweis University, right away. And I completed a 6-year program with a distinction that I am very proud of, because I received the gold ring of the Hungarian Republic, which means that I had a A+ at every exam, at every year, from age 6 till age 24 when I finished the medical school.
That's quite an accomplishment. Do you still have the ring?
I still have the ring, yes.
Huh. And as you were going through your schooling, who were the role models that you looked up to as you were trying to get to that career of being the professor of surgery?
Well, certainly, as I mentioned to you, my father was a tremendous help. During my decision-making years, when I decided that I continued to be a medical student, and I go to medical school. And then later, when I got into the university, Professor Lajos Soltész, who was a pioneer vascular surgeon in Hungary, who was a good friend of my father, and he took me to his department, and that's really where I got acquainted with vascular surgery. And I didn't know too much about it. It sounded very good that I could become a vascular surgeon, so I applied for the position, and I fortunately got the position, but after 2 weeks I knew that I selected the right profession. And he was an exceptionally great surgeon in a way of establishing vascular surgery in Hungary, arranging the first board exam of in vascular surgery, independent from general surgery in 1980.
Wow.
So
that was ahead of
that was
here.
ahead of the time here. So when I came to this country in 1981, I was at that time a board certified general and vascular surgeon.
Okay.
And I owe a lot to Professor Scholtes for that. And he also gave me a lot of opportunities that were not generally done in a communist regime. I got a scholarship to go to Paris. I spent a year in Paris.
Okay.
And I also, because of his important personality, I had a chance to meet many people who later helped me during my career, including Emmerich Szilágyi, who was a good friend of Professor Scholtes.
So you met him in Paris then?
I met Emmerich in Budapest when he visited once.
Okay.
And then later I met him here. But it is interesting that, in fact, Emmerich also studied medicine, at least for a short while, in Paris.
Really?
But the real connection with Emmerich and my family was also that he also went to the same medical school in Hungary where my father went to. So in 1933 or 34, just before he emigrated to the United States and came to the University of Michigan, he spent 1 year in Debrecen, which is one of the old medical schools in Hungary, which is the medical school my father graduated from a few years after that.
Very interesting.
A lot of connections.
Yeah. What was vascular surgery? Do you have any recollection of what vascular surgery was like back then when you spent some time on those services?
I started right away I finished medical school in 1972, and 1972, 73, I actually joined the vascular surgery service as a resident, although I rotated general surgery as well, but I did most of my rotations in vascular surgery. We had two major vascular procedures. The one was lumbar sympathectomy, the other one was amputation. And then slowly we started to do aortobiofemoral bypass.
Uh-huh.
Interesting enough, Michael Gloviczki came to Budapest in 1983 and showed us how to do an aortobiofemoral bypass. He came for a couple of days, and then we learned it and we started doing it.
Huh.
Anatoly Pakrovsky came from Moscow and he did large aortic reconstructions, so we started to do aortic reconstructions. And then several of my younger colleagues spent time in Germany, came back, and in the 1970s we did renal bypasses, we did transaortic endarterectomies, and probably earlier than here, in the mid-1970s, we implanted Gore-Tex grafts at a time when they were not even approved in the United States.
How did you get access to those?
We had access to the grafts because Gore had a company representative in Germany. His name was Marco Vodeb. And Marco brought a bunch of grafts from Munich to Budapest. And we got like 80 centimeters of grafts. We sterilized it, and one graft lasted for 6 patients if we could use it. We just cut always a little piece and implanted in patients. So it was a interesting time.
I'll bet.
Interesting time at that time. But it was already reconstructive surgery, mid 1970s.
Is that hospital still very active in vascular
Hospital
surgery?
is one of the most active hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
I was back just last September.
Mm-hmm.
Gave a talk. They invited me to give a talk at the university in this cardiovascular clinic. They are very, very good. They do over 2,000 vascular reconstructions a year, and I keep close contact with them. Actually, I have kept close contact with them ever since.
Mm-hmm.
So several of the members of the clinic came to Rochester, and we always organize some scientific meetings with the Hungarians. So there is a good connection. We are just going to get a research fellow for 1 year from that institution.
That's terrific. So maintaining those ties.
Maintaining the ties.
But then eventually you decided to come to the U.S. What prompted that?
Well, I always wanted to work at the best possible place. And when I was in Paris, I had a wonderful time during that year. I worked with Professor Serval and Cormier, who were two great vascular surgeons who worked at that time together with Natalie and Kiefer.
Mm-hmm.
And interesting enough, Serval, my professor, every 3 to 4 months or maybe 6 months, disappeared and traveled to the United States, came back. And so after one of his trips, I asked him, "Where did you go?" He said, "I had my checkup at the Mayo Clinic." I said, "The Mayo Clinic? Tell me about the Mayo Clinic." I said, "Mayo Clinic is the best institution in the world." So I thought, God, if the Mayo Clinic is the best institution in the world, what am I doing in Paris? So at that time, that was in the mid-70s, I decided I have to go to the Mayo Clinic if that's the best institution in the world. And I fortunately had a physician, met a physician who had some Hungarian connection. His father was Hungarian, and he was in vascular medicine at Mayo Clinic, Dr. Alex Schirger.
Mm-hmm.
And he persuaded one of his patients to start a fellowship. And that was the time when Larry Ollier came to Rochester in 1980. So in 81, I was Larry Ollier's first research fellow. And this is how I finished up at Mayo Clinic.
And how did your family feel about you moving?
Well, my parents were very supportive.
Uh-huh.
I was not married at that time, and my father, obviously as a physician, heard and knew about Mayo Clinic, and they supported me fully. Mm-hmm. All the time. Hungary was a communist country at that time, mm-hmm. and I felt that the opportunity in Rochester is fantastic, and I had unbelievable optimism that I will succeed here. Mm-hmm. And I succeeded in a way that I did all my necessary exams, and I got into the clinical program. I had to repeat my general surgery residency.
Oh boy,
so
all over again.
And by that time I did two full general surgery residencies and 3 fellowships.
Oh boy, so you're well trained.
So apparently I was the best trained vascular surgeon in Rochester at that time.
And when you came to the Mayo Clinic, was your intent to go there and get your training, then go back to Budapest, or was your intent to immigrate to the United States?
First I wanted to come and do research and see how it looks and see if I would stay there. Mm-hmm. And in fact, when I decided, my then fiancée came after me, and we got married in Rochester, but we pretty much decided that we would stay in Rochester, but I still wanted to be sure, so I went back once at the end of the first year. I went back to Rochester, from Rochester to Budapest,
Okay.
just to be sure that this is the right decision. And it coincided with the death of my mentor in Budapest. Professor Scholtes died just at the time when I was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that at that point, this coupling with a system that was an oppressive communist system,
Okay.
and the possibility of freedom and opportunity in Rochester and unbelievable medical practice, I just couldn't let it go, and I decided to stay in Rochester.
And what was the research you started with Dr. Ollier? What was it focused on?
I was working on venous reconstruction.
Okay.
We were putting in grafts into the inferior vena cava of dogs. I was doing microsurgery, lymphatic microsurgery. We were doing lymphovenous anastomosis to try to treat lymphedema.
Mm-hmm.
And I still remember my first visiting professor to whom I had a chance to present this project was Dr. Wiley from San Francisco. And it was, he came to Rochester in May of 1982, and he liked what I showed him, and he says, well, come and visit us in San Francisco.
Huh.
And he died in September
I see.
of that year. So when in 1987 I had the privilege to be the first Wiley traveling fellow, I could actually fulfill that invitation, and then I went to San Francisco and met Mrs. Wiley and told her this story that in fact I was invited here 7 years previously, and that was a memorable time
Mm-hmm.
that I always cherish and remember.
Tell me a little bit about the Division of Vascular Surgery at the time that you joined the Mayo Clinic as a faculty member. Who were there? Who were the faculty members at that time? What was the focus? And where was the field going at that time?
It was an exciting time because this is when the section of vascular surgery was formed in Rochester at Mayo Clinic. There was no separate vascular surgery section before. Cardiac surgeons did vascular, thoracic surgeons and orthopedic surgeons did vascular surgery.
Mm-hmm.
So Dr. Ollier joined Dr. Perolero, who was a thoracic surgeon who did quite a bit of vascular, and these two surgeons formed the first section of vascular surgery, joined almost immediately by Dr. Ken Cherry
Mm-hmm.
from San Francisco, who came from Jack Wiley's program.
Okay.
And soon after that, about 3 years later, Jeb Hallett, who trained in Boston at Harvard, worked in San Antonio at Wilford Hall. He joined the group. So when I joined them, I became the 5th member of the division in 1987.
Mm-hmm.
It was the time when thoracoabdominal aneurysm repair really became controversial and very popular in Rochester because of the research and clinical work that we did there with spinal fluid drainage.
Mm-hmm.
We were studying spinal cord physiology in the dog lab, and took those data and used really, I think, for the first time in a routine clinical practice, spinal fluid drainage.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Ollier had exceptional result in the first group of patients. which ultimately then led Stanley Crawford to do a prospective randomized study. So both Dr. Paolero and Dr. Olive were excellent surgeons who did complex, difficult open thoracoabdominal or visceral reconstruction with enviable ease.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of patients, a lot of pathology, many aneurysms, we had increasing number of ruptured aneurysms. When I got on the staff, I started to do very distal reconstruction, pedal bypasses that I actually did with microscope because I was so familiar with that technique. And then Ken Cherry and myself started to do more and more venous surgery. But all of us did pretty much the full spectrum of vascular surgery.
And the Mayo Clinic obviously has had such the vascular division has had a long-standing history of excellence in open vascular surgery. How did you make that transition into the endovascular realm, and were you a little skeptical in the beginning when you started to hear about some of the different techniques?
It was not easy. It was not easy because, again, the Mayo Clinic has always been known to be a place where you bring your family, and you have to make a decision. Is this a technology that is ready to use it in a member of your family? I mean, that is the philosophy in Rochester, that you try to treat every patient as a member of your family. And it is, for many years, endovascular techniques, particularly aortic endografts, were not proven, or at least open surgery, in our experience, had better results. So it took us several years, but by the mid 1990s, we started to put in endografts, and then when they were approved, obviously we all used the technique. So in the meantime, we had expert vascular surgeons who had training elsewhere. Tim Sullivan was one of them who came and brought endovascular experience. Jean Penneton, who was our younger colleague too, who was very early in favor of endovascular reconstruction, and ultimately with mentorship from Greg Sicard, Rodney White, and others in the SVS, we all learned how to do them. And today, with the younger generation, with Gustavo Oderich specifically, we have an absolutely fantastic complex aortic endovascular program.
And you were fortunate enough to run this division for a good number of years, and the Gonda Vascular Center. So I'm interested in your thoughts about these integrated vascular programs. Who should be included, and who do you think should be running those types of clinics? Because they seem to be popping up everywhere.
The Gonda Vascular Center has been one of the pioneer vascular centers in this country, and it just followed the Mayo tradition of teamwork. Mayo Clinic has been very well known as a group practice for many decades, and I think it was for that reason not so difficult to establish a multidisciplinary center. In fact, it was very natural. As the endovascular technology developed, and there was a turf war between cardiology, radiology, and surgery, we had some difficulties, and I think that these challenges and difficulties are now less than what they used to be, but in fact, vascular surgery is doing now a lot of the interventions that interventional radiology used to do previously. So it wasn't a very easy transition, but interventional radiologist practice in the vascular center, cardiologist, interventional cardiologist practice, and we have a very busy vascular center of close to 70,000 patient visits a year that actually functions now, I would say, very well.
And the other piece of it that I've always admired is the vascular medicine piece. Many centers don't have vascular medicine integrated in their vascular centers, but I think that seems to be a very helpful piece
Vascular
as well.
medicine has an amazing history at Mayo Clinic, starting with the first vascular textbook of Allen, Barker, and Hines, who were the first vascular medicine physicians, and it goes back to the 1930s, 1940s. In the 1950s, we had a vein service with the Lofgren brothers and T.T. Myers. These were surgeons who did nothing else but treated patients with varicose veins and venous ulcers. The vascular medicine group now consists of at least 9 full-time vascular physicians, and they are an integral part of the vascular center, of the cardiovascular center, because they run a vascular medicine clinic, they run an claudication clinic, a vein clinic, an ulcer clinic, a hyperbaric oxygen chamber clinic, a arteritis clinic, and a thrombophilia clinic. Now these are, most of it, really non-surgical areas that we are in fact very thankful that we can focus on the patients who need interventions. And this group really helps us in many ways, also in patient selection and in part in follow-up of the patients too.
Now, obviously, you've had a wonderful, prosperous career in vascular surgery and just recently completed your role as the president of the SVS. In your presidential address, which just came out in the JVS, you reviewed some of the coming changes in healthcare, which obviously many physicians are concerned about, and then questions about training of future surgeons and just our specialty as a whole. When you look back at some of the last several years, what do you consider some of the seminal events in your career? Some things that really stand out in your career?
Well, first, to be a president of the SVS is a tremendous privilege. It is a great organization that really greatly cares about the members, the patients, and the profession. We can be very proud of the research, the education, the advocacy, and clinical practice that we promote. It was a great year, and I am extremely thankful to my peers for that. I think, as you mentioned, healthcare changes. Vascular care has changed tremendously. The minimally invasive techniques, the fact that we have to deal with multiple specialties who do the same procedure, and we have to not only just grow up in certain areas, but keep the quality of care in every areas that we do. And what I think we should do is be leaders. But we work in an environment where colleagues in interventional radiology and interventional cardiology also do high quality work, so we have to come to a consensus in many areas. So I think that is a major change, that we have to find a way how to communicate with vascular specialties. At a time when vascular surgeons still have a unique situation, because we can truly provide comprehensive vascular care. We do open surgery, we do endovascular surgery, we provide medical care. we follow our patients, we have a great history of quality. And I think that in this era of healthcare change where high value is so important, we can do that. You know, we know how to deliver high quality, compassionate, patient-oriented care and be cost-effective. And I think that's really what the new healthcare system wants.
It's interesting. I tell my fellows oftentimes that vascular surgeons are really primary care physicians who also do surgical procedures because of the fact that we do see patients on a routine basis and follow them comprehensively.
I think this is important what you're saying. I hope that in this new healthcare system this will be recognized in a way, because there is a tremendous shift to take support away from specialists and channel it to primary care physicians. But there are specialties like ours where we really serve as primary care physicians. And I think we deserve that this is recognized.
So one of the things that I see as a challenge is oftentimes on the weekends when I'm out at my kids' soccer games, I'm on the sideline talking with other families and they ask, what do you do? And I say, I'm a vascular surgeon. And have you ever had somebody look at you with a blank stare as if, what is a vascular surgeon? How do we change that? How do we increase the public awareness of who a vascular surgeon is and what they can provide?
Well, this is, you bring up something that is so close to my heart, because I've been saying it for years that nothing is more important than branding our name and branding our profession and brand our society. So people know who vascular surgeons are. And for this reason, during the retreat that we held during the year of my presidency, branding was accepted as one of the 6 core goals of the future strategic plan. It is, in a great part, it is a matter of funding. You know, it requires public awareness, public campaign needs a tremendous amount of money. And I think at least in part that plays a role in this. But I think it's up to us and the new generation of vascular surgeons who do miracles with minimally invasive interventions. You know, I mean, to me, if the fact that a patient with a ruptured aneurysm comes into the hospital and leaves 2 days later with a stent graft, that is close to a miracle. And I think sooner or later the public is going to recognize that. Hospitals don't put the attention to vascular surgery in a great extent because we deal with Medicare patients. And the income to the hospital is not as important as in some of the other specialties, orthopedic surgery or neurosurgery or pediatric surgery. But I think sooner or later they will recognize that, especially with the increasing age of the population, how important vascular surgery really is, and how important it is that we deliver effective care with much better results and we decrease indeed mortality. We save lives, we save limbs, we save patients from pulmonary emboli that is so fatal.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
Now, you've been the recipient of numerous distinguished awards throughout your years. Which awards do you treasure the most and why?
Well, I certainly cherish a lot my Wiley Traveling Award that I received from the Society for Vascular Surgery, because it was at a critical time at the beginning of my career, and it really helped me so much to know people, to be known as a vascular surgeon, and I thought that helped me a lot.
Mhm.
I had a lot of, I have a lot of emotions and connections to France, and my current wife is French,
Mhm.
and I cherish very much the award that I received in Paris several years ago, which is the Medal of the City of Paris for my contribution to vascular medicine in France, which is an award that I remember well. I also received the Carmody Award from the Society for Clinical Vascular Surgery.
Mhm.
I remember that, and I mentioned you that the gold ring of the Hungarian Republic that I received when I finished my medical school, that was very important and dear to me.
So I have to ask, what is your favorite surgical procedure? Your favorite vascular surgical procedure? Because obviously your careers spanned over a number of years, and it sounded like there was a lot of focus on aortic work, and now you have a lot of focus on venous work. What do you find to be the most enjoyable technical exercise?
I love aortic surgery.
Mm-hmm.
An abdominal aortic aneurysm is just a wonderful procedure that gives me a lot of satisfaction. I have been very much interested in large vein reconstructions.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it is a superior vena cava reconstruction or an inferior vena cava reconstruction, that is unique, exciting, always challenging.
Mm-hmm.
That gives me a lot of satisfaction. I liked very much microscopic distal bypasses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was something that I developed at Mayo Clinic, and I like to do it. But you know, I was working on developing techniques in deep vein valve reconstructions, angioscopic deep vein valve repair that I have done first. I've done different type of thoracic duct and large lymphatic vessel reconstructions.
But not many people
That are
would do
challenging. Not many people do that. You know, I've been blessed that I have been interested in the wide spectrum of vascular disease, and I followed what my professor taught me at the beginning of my career, that vascular surgeons deal with arteries, veins, and lymphatics because those are the blood vessels. And believe it or not, I like endovascular interventions.
Mm-hmm.
So I am blessed that I still am maybe one of the last of the Mohicans who can or has such a wide interest and not yet specialized to one specific area.
How can we ensure that the new generation of vascular surgeons will be able to do open surgery just as you do?
Well, there will be less open surgery, no question, just like there are less open cholecystectomies than what they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no doubt that there will be centers that are going to start open surgical fellowships.
Mm-hmm.
And there will be a need to do these procedures centralized, and there will be training centers where those who are interested in can pursue a training. But I have to agree that the numbers of open procedures diminish so much that in some centers there is simply just not enough case for a satisfactory training.
Yeah, it's very interesting. When the fellows come through to interview now, their primary focus is on open surgery.
That's right, that's right. And I'm not saying that it's necessarily wrong. I mean, our profession is becoming so complex that I want somebody do complex fenestrated endografts who is doing the most, or who is doing satisfactory numbers to get expertise. Or I want my carotid stent, if I ever need one, be done by somebody who does enough. So I'm not necessarily against certain specialization. I think this is coming. In fact, it is already here. But I am obviously concerned that open surgery is going to be rarely done, and it will be difficult to learn.
When you go back to Budapest, is the endovascular world envelop so much of the practice there as it is here in the U.S.?
Not yet. I think it has financial reasons primarily, because obviously the endografts are extremely expensive, so they have a quota. There are so much you can use, but I think it's only a matter of time.
So outside of work, you must have some creative outlets that help provide balance and enjoyment. What types of hobbies do you have? Because I hear that you have some interest in magic.
I was interested in magic, or I am interested in magic. I was 10 years old when I met a magician in Hungary who was a colleague of my father. He was an internist, and he was a member of the Hungarian Amateur Magic Club. So he gave a magic show, and I really loved it, you know. So I went after him, and I asked him to show me a trick, and then he showed me a trick after a while. Magicians don't give away tricks very easily, but somehow he thought that my interest was genuine, so he showed me a trick. He said, "Come back in a week, let me see, practice it, and then if you can do it, then I'll show you another one." So this went like that. So from age 10 to age 13, he was my master, so I was learning magic tricks. And then at age 14, there was a star search in the Hungarian television. And so I applied, and I won the competition as a magician.
At 14?
At age 14.
Wow.
And so I became quite well known in Hungary as the small magician. I was the small magician. And this is how my magic career started.
How do you say that in Hungarian, the small magician?
A kis bűvész. A kis bűvész. So I was known as a magician, but I was also known as somebody who pursued his dream and is going to go to medicine, but that's his hobby. So even though I was performing during high school and during medical school, that's how I went through medical school, I traveled around the world as a magician. But really never gave up my plan to become a physician or a surgeon.
Would you care to share any magic tricks?
Sure. All right. One of the very first tricks I learned first were tricks with coins, because you don't need expensive apparatus for that. It's not an expensive thing, and it's something that's sleight of hand. It's easy to do. The only thing you need to do is to practice. And I soon learned that the hands are quicker than the eyes. That's the amazing thing. When you follow a magician's hands, you never know where the coin is. You see, I put the coin there, but in fact the coin disappears. You know, it becomes invisible. So you can just grab it in the air, put it here, and then let's say we put it through the table, and it comes down there. See that? Or for instance, I can turn the coin in my hand without moving my hand. You see? So again, you see the head is on the top, right? What's on the top, head or tail?
The head.
Very good. I mean, let me show you another trick.
Hey,
But you
where'd the coin
need,
go?
oh, the coin is here.
Okay.
So that's what, these were just one of the first tricks I learned with coins, and then I changed to other objects. For instance, let me show you something very simple. I met a magician who showed me a rope trick, but I didn't have a rope at that time, so I went home and learned this trick with a piece of a thread. So, and I'm going to do it very slowly, so again you see that the hands are quicker than the eyes. I take a piece of the thread. This is actually not even a trick. This is a miracle. I'm going to take this thread right here in front of your eyes, and I'm going to tear it into pieces. See that? No question, right? Right here. So there it is. Long piece of thread in little pieces. And what I do is I'm going to take one piece here and the others here. And I'm going to make a little ball from this one. See that? And I'm going to put it right on this thread if it stays there. Usually it does. Just have to. Okay. Now so far it's not difficult, you see. And then what you need, you have to say the magic words. What are the magic words at Northwestern?
Abracadabra.
Abracadabra. That's the same thing at Mayo. And then you blow on it like that, you see that? And then I grab this lower part of this thread like this and just gently pull it.
That is a miracle.
There it is.
Wow.
Your piece of thread.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Okay, I'll show you one more trick. Because obviously a magician is not a magician without a deck of cards. And this is a regular deck of cards. Okay, just take one card out of the deck, whichever one you want. Look at the card. Don't show it to me.
Okay.
And just that we know that we are not going to change this card, I'm going to turn away and you sign this card from the front. You write your name on the front of the card, all right? Okay? You can put it back anywhere you want. Now, what I would like to do is we're going to, you remember the card?
Oh, yes.
I'm going to take a, let me just see, a rubber band from here. There it is.
Okay.
And I'm going to put that rubber band over this deck. You remember the card that you picked?
Yes.
Okay, well, we're going to see if it's going to work. I'm going to select this part of the ceiling, right there. Okay? You remember the card?
Yes. That's the card.
There's one card there with your signature.
It has my signature on it. Wow. I'm still looking at that card up there. Before we finish, I would like to close with you maybe sharing a few words of wisdom throughout your long and prosperous career. Do you have any words of wisdom for this next generation of vascular surgeons? Things they need to think about, things they should focus on. What are the things that you think are tools for them to become very successful, other than magic?
Well, the message in magic is that it is always good to have a hobby or have a talent that you can work on, something that is that you can do next to your profession. We have a very demanding profession, and I think if you at one time, whether it's the evening or the weekend, when you can forget it and do something completely different, whether it is sport, magic, or painting, or any other hobby, I think do it. That's going to make you a happy and complete person. Mm-hmm. I always had a lot of satisfaction in magic. Mm-hmm. And I really think that magic helped me to develop my surgical skills and my communication skills to a level that ultimately helps my patients and my profession as a vascular surgeon. Mm-hmm. My message to the younger generation of vascular surgeons is that they selected a tremendous profession. Mm-hmm. As you know well, the new training program is extremely popular, mm-hmm. And we get excellent candidates from medical school who want to become vascular surgeons. We as senior people should look for trainees who want to do great work for good income, but not necessarily great income and good work. Mm-hmm. My other philosophy is that we as surgeons and physicians are primarily here for our patients. And I truly believe that the best interest of the patient is the only interest that should be considered. And I truly believe that we should treat patients like we would treat members of our families. And I think if we follow that, we are going to be very successful during this era of where the focus is so much on reimbursement. Mm-hmm. I think our focus should continue to stay on our patients. And reimbursement should be second, third, or fourth on the list of importance.
Well, Dr. Gloviczki, thank you for spending the time with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.